My name is Aliyah Funschelle, and I'm a sports reporter, talk show host, and I have my own brand called Sports with Aliyah. I want this segment to not only empower women in sports at the moment, but also inspire young girls, and I want them to know that no matter what, there is always a spot for them at the table in the industry. So without further ado, welcome to Empower Women in Sports Wednesday. Hello everybody, and welcome to the very first Empower Women in Sports Wednesday. I'm super excited for this new series, so thank you for tuning in. I am super excited to announce my very first guest. You might know her from Twitter, Sydney, or known as Sid Large. She is honestly super active on Twitter and so entertaining to follow, so that's how I came to know her. She also started her very own page and podcast that actually started with this sticker right here. You might have seen it around, but she runs Support Women in Sports, which is why I thought she would be the perfect first guest. Sydney has experience with so many different teams and events such as the Super Bowl, March Madness, and Gopher Athletics. The very first thing that I asked Sydney was when and how she knew she wanted to work in sports, because like me and a lot of other women in sports, she fell in love with it as an athlete and then realized that, oh, this is something that I can do with my life. So here is how she first knew about all of the careers in the sports industry.
So I was in a business club in high school. And we traveled to like a bunch of different conferences across the country, which was really fun, especially as a high school student. And we went to Minneapolis for one of our conferences, and we actually toured like Target Field, and we talked to their marketing department and all of that. And like in that moment, I was like a sophomore in high school, and I was like, this is exactly what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like I had always been somebody who played sports and was like actively involved in sports and like just had like a lot of random sports knowledge. And like, after seeing that, I was like, that's all I want to do. So my junior year of high school, I started working with a Northwoods League team in like near my hometown. And my senior year, I actually interned with them, like my spring semester of my senior year of high school. So that was an awesome opportunity. Like I got to miss like the second half of like class on certain days to like go intern. So like being in that environment, and they kind of made me do a project where I had to call every single minor league baseball team and ask for their promotional schedule. So I can confidently say that I have called every single minor league office. But that was like a really unique project because it allowed me to see like all the marketing and promotion side of things and like what other teams were doing from like a full scope. And then we kind of brought some of that into our season. And at the time too, like working with them, one of my coworkers who was a year above me, like he was going to the University of Minnesota. Like he had said great things about their sport management program. I had already looked at their program. I toured the University of Minnesota like my junior year of high school too, and I was pretty dead set there. So I went to the U, jumped right in. Lucky enough to, I took a ton of AP credits in high school. My high school was obsessed with AP classes, so I was actually a year ahead, and I got to graduate a year early, which was great too. But I got to dive right into all of the sports management classes, and I had a really great professor my freshman year, which definitely helped. And she connected me with a ton of different people across like the Minneapolis sports community, which is really big. So yeah, that's kind of where I fell in love and found my passion, was really in high school. So I was really actively involved with like our football team in high school, and I was like our team manager.
Me
So
too.
coaching, I think, was always an option and like something that I had always looked into as a possibility. And I didn't really realize the whole business side of it until we went to Target Field. So I guess like I knew coaching and recruiting and all of that was an opportunity. And my uncle was also a high school football coach, so like I've always seen that environment of things. So learning the business side of it was definitely huge. And kind of with like the Support Women in Sports platform, eventually I would like to do some sort of webinar or mentorship program with high schools because I think it is highly important.
So I will get to Sydney's brand here in a little bit, but I would like to touch on her Twitter following because she went from barely using her Twitter account to now having over 2,000 followers, which is absolutely crazy. And a lot of them are other people in the sports industry.
Pre-quarantine back in March, April, I think I had 100 Twitter followers. I wasn't very active on Twitter. I just didn't really touch it. And so two of my friends, Aliyah and Colby, they started the Sports as a Job podcast. And Aliyah was like, oh, you should do our weekly Twitter chat sometime. And I was like, okay, I guess I can try this out. I want to support you guys. And from there, I noticed holy cow, there is a huge community of sports people on Twitter. Previously I had only used LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great. And I think with LinkedIn, you can reach very specific people that you want to reach out to. But I've seen there are a lot of people my age, and it got me thinking, and I'm like, okay, so everybody on Twitter right now is really the next generation of sports professionals. All these people on Twitter are who you're going to be working with 10 years from now, and they're all going to be in very high level positions. So you might as well connect with them now. So from there, I kind of sent out a tweet, and I was like, hey, if anybody wants to hop on a call or Zoom, reach out. And a ton of people did. So I was able to meet a lot of really awesome people within the first few weeks of me being on, and it kind of grew from there. And now I'm addicted to Twitter. I can say that confidently. I am on Twitter all the time. It's the first thing I check when I wake up, and it's the last thing I check before I go to bed. But the community is so strong, and I've met so many cool people, and I'm in group chats now with people, and we'll hop on a Zoom, and it turns into 3 hours, and I don't even know these people, but I just met them from Twitter. And Alana and I, who are doing the Support Women in Sports podcast, we've never met each other in person. We met each other on Twitter, and we FaceTime every day now. So it's just crazy, how strong the community is, and who you can meet and reach out to.
So when I first started following Sydney, she actually had just lost her job because of COVID. They cut her spot. So I kind of caught her in this moment of uncertainty, but through that, I've gotten to see her mind work and really come up with, what am I going to do now that my spot has been taken away? What can I do to kind of make lemonade out of the lemons that she was handed?
Honestly, it was a blessing in disguise. At first, obviously, I was very upset about it, and I was a little bit frustrated because I felt like I had been led on for 3 or 4 months. So that was very frustrating. But I have some exciting news coming up soon. Just took off my little free agent in bio, and I unpinned my tweet. So the amount of support I received through that, and honestly just networking and meeting more people. I've hopped into some freelance positions with some other people from that tweet too. But yeah, everybody was so supportive. I was shocked. That was funny. That tweet got more likes and retweets and all of that compared to the one where I announced my job in the first place. So I think that was funny to see too, because I was it showed how much I had grown within the past 3 months. And then also just people care, random people I've never met care about me. And that's not something that you find on a lot of other platforms.
So fast forward just a little bit, she started really promoting these stickers, the Support Women in Sports stickers, and her network grew even more.
So I did the stickers around the time, I think it was a little bit before all the Washington football stuff came out. And the stickers as is were doing really well. And then the Washington football stuff came out, and I was like, okay, there's enough women in this industry. This is a hole that needs to be filled. Surprisingly, I did some research too. I'm is there an account already like this? There were some smaller accounts, and I was no, this just needs to be more direct. And so I started a Twitter account, and it grew really rapidly. We got 1,000 followers in a week, which I was shocked by. I was I thought this was going to be slow growth, kind of, but it's just popped off, I guess. That's the only term I can describe it, because, and yeah, it all started as a sticker. Honestly, I have big goals for it and want to do more, and just right now haven't had a ton of time to dedicate to it. But yeah, I'm super excited where it's going, and I'm really happy we got the podcast launch off and talking to some web people and hopefully getting a website soon. Personally, like I feel like creatives get taken advantage of in this industry, especially female creatives. So I'd like to provide some sort of platform for written and like other creatives stuff to like go and also like have an opportunity to make some money off of it with like ad revenue, and share the wealth kind of. So that's kind of like a goal for me personally, just because I don't believe in like unpaid creative work. Like it's hard. So trying to provide like a platform for that, and then like a mentor mentee sort of program or something too.
The Support Women in Sports brand is growing rapidly. They have started their own podcast, which has already been super successful. And now I even see that they're making graphics about letting other women tell their stories by filling out a Google Docs, and they will put it into a graphic. They believe that every woman in sports should have their story told, and that no story is too big or too little, which I definitely stand by too. So I do foresee a lot of different people that they showcase, I will also showcase on here. But at the end of the day, there is never too much content when it comes to supporting women in sports. When I asked Sydney about if she has ever faced some discrimination for being a woman in sports, I honestly had no idea that she was going to say this.
Personally, I've been in a lot of positions where like I've been supported, and I've also had like a lot of great female leaders around me. So during my time at Gopher Athletics, like both of our full-time like social media manager and coordinator were both women. And like our intern team was all women too. So like that was a really unique, like all of our social was like done by women, which was really cool. But like I was at a startup for a while, and it was definitely a lot more male dominated, and there was like an older guy who just did not understand like social media at all, and he would just like constantly just point out like any sort of flaws that I made. And then also like my other female coworker, like she would send him, like she did a lot of like long form articles, and like she would send him things, and he just like wouldn't respond, but he was responding to like other people in the office. And so like that was really frustrating, and it was like I don't know if this guy just like doesn't know what he's doing, or if he's like just anti-female. Like I honestly like could not tell, but it was really frustrating. And I guess like other people, like I've seen it more from like older people in the industry more than like younger people. I think like a lot of security guards, especially at events, like they would always like question. They're like, "Oh, like why are you here?" And so like, okay, dude, like I'm just trying to do my job. Like you don't really need to question me right now. So it was like more from that standpoint. Like I remember one time, it was when the Gophers upset Penn State, and I was trying to get back to like our tunnel in the locker room, and I was with like one of our former players, and like he was just there as a fan, and I'm like in my like photo vest like with my credential, and he was like, "Oh, like no girlfriends in the locker room," and I was like, I work here, like you see me on a regular basis. And it was just like really frustrating. I was like, what? I was like, and I was just like, no, no, no. And I just kept walking, and I was like, I don't know, like I always find it with like security people for some reason. They have like some weird like power need, but
Thankfully, here in Wichita, the security guards that work various events and WSU basketball and everything are very big supporters of my brand and of myself. So I never even thought that this is something that women have to deal with, because I've been very fortunate to not see it. But that is a big reason why I ask different people this question of what's something that you had to go through and overcome, because everyone's experience is different and everyone's experience is valid. So with that being said, I did ask Sydney what advice she would give for other women in the industry or girls making their way into this industry, and she gave me so much amazing insight and things that I've seen for myself and some things that I've needed to hear. And so I think that anyone listening would value from hearing her advice.
At the end of the day, like just keep your head up and do what you do best. I think it can be very frustrating, and this industry is highly competitive, and you're gonna want to go out and just do everything that you can. Personally, like I went through a lot of burnout my senior year. I was doing a lot my freshman and sophomore year and all of that, and I was like, oh, like I did it the past 2 years, like this is like maintainable. and it just wasn't. And I experienced like a lot of burnout, and honestly, like I just was not a great person during that time because I was so constantly stressed. So like taking a step back sometimes and like reassessing everything and being like, okay, like what am I good at? Like what am I striving to be the best at? And also like taking a step back and seeing like where am I naturally pulled? Like what I was doing like 2 different internships at the same time, and I had to like say like, okay, which one am I excited about? And like I wake up every morning and I'm excited to do. So sometimes you have to look at that, and like even within different like skills of a job, and if you can go and be like, hey, like I really enjoy doing this portion of my job, but I don't necessarily enjoy this other portion of my job, and it really stresses me out. And they're like being really open with communication. Like I think a lot of people in the industry respect, and also asking for help. I'm a very stubborn person sometimes. I don't like to ask for help. I like to do it all by myself. And I think that's the competitiveness of the industry, and then also being a female in the industry. And like, I'm like, oh, I don't need help from people. Like, that's like a sign of weakness. And I think sometimes like asking for help is really important, and it's going to help you in the long run, like both like from a mental health aspect, like you're going to be a lot less stressed. And then I don't know, it's just good to like lean on other people sometimes too. Obviously you don't want to ask for help on everything, but when it's needed, I guess. Yeah, those are like my 2 big ones. Like just don't burn yourself out. Like I went through that. It's awful. Just don't do it. This is another thing too. Surround yourself with people who support you rather than compete against you. I think there's a really fine line in this industry, and it's hard to find those people who are really going to be happy for your successes. So find those people and like hold on to those people. And if you have toxic people in your life, like step away.
I cannot stress this enough, because as a woman in sports, or just even as a human being, it is important to have a circle that wants to see you succeed. And I know in my personal life, I have a lot of friends that, you know, if they're in a situation where they hear about an opportunity that I would be perfect for, they go to bat for me, and they help me succeed, and I want to see them succeed. And it is hard to navigate, especially for the younger girls watching out there. It is really hard to navigate who you should keep in that circle. But I'm so glad that Sydney said this, and to have a good support system is honestly something that could make or break your time as a professional in the sports industry. So that is it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please either give it a thumbs up or retweet it or like it or share it to your story, whatever it may be, because I think these stories are so important to be told. So thank you all for watching, and I hope you left a little bit inspired, or at least were entertained. So thank you so much to Sydney for being my very first guest on the Empower Women in Sports Wednesday segment on Sports with Aliyah. I am so excited for this segment, and I can't wait to keep bringing you guys some amazing women and some amazing stories. If you are a woman in sports or know an amazing woman that you'd like to see featured, please let me know. My DMs are always open. Also, my DMs are always open for anyone needing advice or just looking to have someone in their circle that you know will want to see you succeed. That's me. I want to see you guys succeed. So make sure to shoot me a DM or anything if you're ever needing some advice or just need someone to hype you up. And you can find me on all social medias at Funschelle18 and Sports with Aliyah, pretty much everywhere. I'm everywhere, so it is not that hard to find me. But thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for all your support with anything that I ever decide to do. I always have a million ideas, so thank you guys for always supporting me and being such a big part of my story.